Okay, so you should now be able to hear me, and that's a thing that I am very happy about. Thank you very much, world, for everything. Hi, everybody. I am your friendly neighborhood Prax. Welcome to the channel, and tonight we are going to continue our work on GM prep for the game that I am currently writing. It is a Carousel Court, which is a modulated game. That actually works. Where I am hacking together like 3 or 4 different, 2 systems and making it make sense into a new world. And it is a system where, excuse me, sorry about that. I'm taking Green Ronin's Song of Ice and Fire Sword Chronicle system and mushing it together with Pendragon's generational system and creating a new thing. It is a Southern Gothic urban fantasy set in Savannah, Georgia, starting in 1945 and going through the year 2000. We've been doing a bunch of house builds for all, we did the house builds for all of the players that are going to be in this game. We did house builds for a bunch of NPCs, and then we got a bunch of my wonderful, fabulous friends from across the internet to come and help add some color to this world in the best way possible. If you've missed out on any of those wonderful streams, you can check them out over on the YouTube, which exists and now has more stuff on it, and they're all nice, neat little organized playlists, so life is grand, right? Like, all of the things are great. I don't know why my hair looks like it's a thing, but whatever. So, tonight, I think we need to continue where we left off, which is finalizing some of the details for one of the NPC houses, the LaFaeYettes, as they are called, and further create some more details. First, we need some nice background sound. I'm thinking some nice R&B. Let's go with it. Let's go with Pretzel's R&B and see what they do. Let me know if it gets too loud, but we are gonna start with where we left off with the LaFaeYette house, which is apparently not showing up. And there we go. Okay. It just didn't want to be on that. Didn't want to be on that screen. There we go. Alright, that's better. So we built out this house, and you can see the stats that we've got, and they've ended up with some really good stats, really good high-level stats pretty much across the board, and history going back to the founding of Jamestown. And we decided that this family were unseelie fae, unsheet fae, not seelie, although that's what all of the people, you know, call them in English, which is mildly annoying, but I can tolerate. So we've got this group. Wait, no, That's not what I wanted. There we go. It was on the wrong page for a second. I fixed it. Okay. So, we've got these stats, and we start with way these our stats are arranged are designed to help me and indeed the player characters understand like the positioning and power that each of these characters or families will have. So with a 34 in HOA, which is basically their power stat, right? Like how much power they have to control. You've decided that you are entering the club garden competition this year. With a 61 in influence, y'all the kingmakers. No one gets elected without your say-so. Right. 25 in wealth is the lower middle class. Or no, that's the family. 25 in family is lower middle class. And then 25 in people is not a large extended family. It is an extended family. So you, your spouse, your 2.5 kids, your siblings, in-laws, and your unwed siblings. Your parents and in-laws and your unwed siblings. With a 51 in land, you own your own house and have a farm property in the country and a small office building that they own outright. A 47 in reputation. They're the talk of the town. Folks talk about your good deeds and the occasional small scandals of your cousins. You know, like they do. I think that music's a little loud, so bring it back down a little bit. And then a 61 in magic. They have the largest magic. Your family has the largest wellspring, one of the largest wellsprings of magic in the country, maybe the continent. You know, because they're Shili Fae, and they have powers that are beyond comprehension. So we said last time that this family originally is from France, and the founder, quote-unquote founder of this family, aided Henry of Navarre in succeeding to the French throne in 1600. Which I think is a good thing here, right? Like, we maybe not a good thing, but at least, you know, you're on the side of Henry of Navarre, and there are worse people you could have been on the side of in that kind of situation, I guess. And then, yeah, so we're just actually gonna do this a little bit differently. And so then okay, so this is 1600. And then this is 1665. And they get an eccentric ruler in 1665, and the eccentric ruler provides an honest review for Jean Racine that encourages him to break with Molière. This person, the head of this family, becomes the patron for Racine and his production of Alexandre de la Grande, which means that, you know, we're still in France. The family doesn't leave France until, I'm thinking probably, you know, 1733. Probably not until after the American War for Independence. Hey Faye, welcome in. We're going back to our LaFaeyettes. Welcome in, Schmelza. How are you all doing? How's life out in the world, as we like to say? We are back to our LaFaeyettes. Okay, so that is 1754 to 1763. American War for Independence. Yeah, so they're doing pretty good out of backing the Americans. Here we go. All right. In 1789. Okay. All right, so where were we? We have got, so they're getting some glory out of fighting for the French. And so I think it's going to be that same, right? Because they're Fae, right? The family are Fae. And so we know that they're a relatively, decent-sized family, but they have lost a couple here with this eccentric ruler that wasn't really helpful. Yes, Krellin, we're back to the LaFayettes. I'm sure you were very happy about that. And so I'm thinking it's the same person who, because they're Fae, right? We know that they're effectively immortal. Also, for those of you who can't see, I got myself a new toy, brand new chair, new special toy. I upgraded. And I'm just gonna say that it's worth it. So I'm gonna say that the same person who's gaining glory both in 1600, working with Navarre, and then fighting in the War of Polish Succession, against with the French, purely, and I like the idea that it's purely because they like the design of the French uniforms, which, let's be honest, the only people who end up with better designed uniforms are the Italians, and that'll be much later. Then we come into this horrible negative with the French and Indian War, where the family backs the French against the English and lose badly. And I think this is the point at which the family finally leaves France, right? Like, they fight. LaFayettes is the best thing ever. Yes, PB, this is the Unseelie Fae family, and look, we couldn't come up with a name for them, and Krellin coined the phrase LaFaeYette, and we're like, you know what? Why not? And so we're saying that they fight against the English in Europe, and I think are, loose with the losses that come out of that war so badly, are forced to sell property, and because they lose a little bit of wealth, but they really lose a lot of people and reputation in that loss. And so they're forced to sell some of the property and actually move to the Americas. And I think at this point they're still in French territories, probably Louisiana. And with the coming of the American Revolution, and with the revolution, and then that's when they, you know, you have the mundane side of the family, right? LaFaeYette, the actual LaFaeYette. And they decide to back that side of the family and so they actually, no, I don't think they have to leave yet. I think they're still in Europe. And we said that they're going to leave at the end of the revolution because they see which way Louis and France is going, right? Like, they see the writing on the wall, and they're encouraging the rest of the family to leave. And so it's because they were supported the Americans against the British. They are given property in Georgia that had belonged to a loyalist, right? Like, that was a thing that happened. Okay, I think the music is good, though. All right, so in 1789, there's a victory. Okay, so 1789, there is a victory. And what do they get out of that victory? They gain power and lots of influence. And I think that victory... Is that victory, do we want to say, is it political or is it some sort of... Is it something more martial? I don't know. I don't know. Is it political? Is it martial? I think it's a combination of both, right? Like, I think it's... Okay, so one of the things that happens with the problems that cause the actual the Constitutional Convention is the actual problems that arise out of a lot of the disconnect that comes out of the separation of states. And I think one of the things that's going to come out of this is there was a large rise in banditry and piracy because of there wasn't a stable, like, you had to pay tariffs and taxes to cross from one state into the other. And there was a lot of problems that caused from that. And so I think it starts as a you know, starts as a small scale putting down of local bandits. In a way that's public but still not violent. Right? Like, I think because, you know, that Fae thing, I think they talk their way not good. Okay, there we go. That's better. And I think that started as they talked their way, it was this, large scale number of bandits just kind of riding around, post-war, individuals who didn't really have, who even after this unification of, this war against, they won this war against the British, but now you've got a bunch of troops who are coming home, all of these kind of things play into each other, and I think it's this, these local bandits attack the family property, right? And they talk them around to supporting the family. And I think this, because right, they get this boost in influence and power and a little bit of magic here, but mostly influence and power in HOA. So I think it's this, they convince these people to support the family, and hire them as like maybe security or farm workers. Wait. Security for the... Look, we have a bunch of French. And you want to know what we have not yet established as being in... as any of these families has been? None of the families, none of the NPCs, none of the player families have had any ties to alcohol production. I'm sorry, this seems like an oversight. So I'm gonna say that the LaFayettes have the distillery and the vineyard, right? Like, it just makes sense. And, them first folk who were trying to make muscadine wine. Muscadine wine is a thing that does exist, and you can drink it, and you can make it. It's a pain in the ass. And if you thought that, making regular wine was labor intensive, then, you've never tried to make muscadine wine. For the vineyard / distillery. Distillery. Alright. And so that's how it becomes both like this kind of starts with this threat of violence that they can then talk people around to, and now we've established that the LaFayettes are where you get your alcohol in Savannah. Oh Lord, they're gonna own a bar, aren't they, at some point? And then, okay, so I think that's where that goes. And then favor. Okay, what's this favor that they do, right? Like, it has to be for somebody important. And we know we got a lot of people who are doing a lot of things. A lot of the families have got things going on during the fire, right? Like, let's see what we got. All right, so yeah, they're not there. They're not there. They're not there. We got some sea trade going on. We got people taking advantage of the fire to deal with their own issues. We've got... What's the wind? Not there yet. People combating fire subtly. We've got people being not so subtle in their combat of the fire. We got people stepping up to take power. I think this is just straight up. No, the family's not there yet. I think that this is just straight up in this fire at this point. The LaFayettes, who are now, you know, I know we got a lot of people who are doing things to kind of combat and support. I'm coming back to this. I think at this point, with that family, I think the family is, you know, this is where the LaFayettes are going to shift to being power makers, right? And political in the best way, well, in the best, worst way. And I think this is where the family, this member, this person, right, in the family starts organizing on the political sphere, right? Like, they're starting now to work, starts organizing local guild, you know, local authorities and politicians to respond to the fire. And this is where the family starts moving into being kingmakers, right? Like, this is how they're going to get established in the political scene in Savannah. And I think that's where that's going to come from. Okay. And I think we're going to bring back this same fighter. And I'm gonna have them... I mean, the thing that makes the most sense here is that they have to be fighting for the Confederacy. And I don't think it's because they believe in the ideals of slavery or even most of these issues. I think that they're supporting the Confederacy here for political reasons, purely. And for own personal gain, right? I mean, they're Fae. What are they doing? Their capricious nature and its self-worth and self-desire. And one of the things when I created this game and I delineated certain character tropes, they're not good or evil, but they're all tricksters at heart, and they can't lie. Right? None of them can lie. So I think it's here that it's just supporting the local and gaining, and they gain land and right, is that land that they're gaining? Yeah, they're gaining more land here and more magic. And I think and because this particular member of the family is leading battle and fighting battles for the Confederacy, I think this is where they start being named in wills. Right? Like, this is where people start being like, oh, I'm going to, well, y'all own this property next door. I'm going to own, I don't have anybody else that'll take over my farm when I die. Why don't you, I'll leave it to your family, and that'll seem right. It's appropriate. And I think that's where that is right now. And part of that comes from just this ideology of being well known and, a great Confederate hero. And I don't think they even care, right? Like, I don't think they actually care about the Confederate ideology or slavery. I think they might think that slavery itself is a not good thing, but at the same time they also come from under the hill, and there's conceptions of free will that don't exist for certain Fae, right? Like, make deals and sell your labor for 200 years to make up for whatever. They're only human though, right? I mean, right? So I think that's where this comes in, and I think the slaves, though, I mean, yeah, I think there's that part of it too. Like, I don't think they conceive of slavery the same way, particularly if you think about all the stories and tales that both the Sheed and the Unsheed are telling about, you know, you go through the mists into Tir Nog and you drink, and now you're bound to serve the fairy court for 150 years of entertainment or whatever. And for them it's like the same kind of conception, and I don't think they actually understand that it's not the same thing. And I don't think that they really care to understand either, because it's all just human things. But I think this is where, and because of that land, is where you're also going to gain a lot of this wealth and power and influence, all of these things. And I think that's why Sherman's arrival in 1864, and I think because I think they die, right? Like, they are killed by Sherman's army. And that's going to be like, there's this tie to this belief system, right? Like, they had achieved folk hero status, right? You know, this level of like, they went out on all of these other raids and all of these other people died, and you know, the military has this ideology of you can have become a lucky charm or even just a curse, depending on how you do and what happens and how many units you survive or whatever. And I think that's what happened to this particular Fae, and I think they die and are killed by the army. Ooh, do I want to make it really dark? Yes, I do, because this game, we have established, is just that shade of dark. And I think it's that they drew the attention of a hunter who intentionally killed them with cold iron, right? Like, and I think that's where that big loss in population comes in. And I think that's how that happens. Okay, and then, so 1893, during the hurricane, they suffer a loss of wealth, a loss of land, or loss of wealth, land, influence, and I think this is just the hurricane destroys the vineyard, right? Salt water across the crops. You wipe out an entire year's harvest. And the flooding in the distillery, right? Like, this is just going to be a financial burden that's going to cause the land to be a problem. It's going to cause the loss of finances. It's going to lose some reputation because they can't meet contracts, right? Like, that's where they're going to lose that influence. Right? I think that's where that's going to come in. I like that idea. I think that's where that's gonna be. And then World War One, there's a treachery that comes out of World War One. Who are we gonna betray? I don't think they're gonna betray the Americans at this point, right? Like, I don't think so. I think that isn't where the family is going. I think the family now is well established and is firmly here. I think that's where we are. Okay, so who's their treachery against? I don't know. I don't know. Who are they treacherous against? I mean, they're Fae, right? Is this... Oh! Oh, I like... Oh, here's an idea. Go with me. Go with me on this idea. Follow me down this garden path to sin and degradation. But, right, like... They make a deal... Yeah, there's another big thing that happened around in 1918. We call it the Spanish flu. But I'm thinking is actually instead of that, we go with that a member of the family makes a deal to protect, to prevent, makes a deal with a mortal to prevent them from being drafted. And when the mortal reneges on the deal, consequences are due. And the family just comes down on them in such an aggressive public manner that outsiders and mortals view this as, oh, hey, Mandy, welcome in. It's going pretty well. We are back with the LaFayettes, the French Fae family, literally. So we're going to say, like, the member of this family, like, makes a deal with a mortal to prevent them from being drafted in 1918, and when the mortal reneges on the deal, and then consequences are due, like, it's such a public response that the mortals around are surprised at the aggressive nature of it. Because they don't know about the deal, but they do see what the family does when you're like, nah, they broke a contract. We're going to root, and because they're by this point, they're kingmakers, right? They've been kingmakers for over 100 years, almost 100 years now. And, you know, this is where they're going, you know, this is where they're in politics, and they're just gonna socially destroy this person so publicly that people are and don't know why, right? Like, there's a tier in Southern social circles about socially destroying someone on this level, but usually everybody knows why they're being socially destroyed, but because the deal was private, nobody knows what it was. I like this idea. Yeah, so it's just looks like treachery from the outside, but it is horribly destructive, and yeah, I like this idea. Wait, what was Black Tuesday? Is that favor? Okay. So I think I don't remember what black. Hold on, I can figure this out. I can figure this out. Has the technology. Okay, so it's either I want to say it's. Okay, so what bonuses did it get? It got HOA, influence, wealth, and land. Positives to HOA, influence, and wealth. Oh, it's an ascent. Oh, okay. There we go. Okay, so this is 1928. Ascent. Okay. It's easy to figure out. You could not plan this well. To be fair, a lot of this is ideas, and I got really lucky with a lot of people coming in, like Tanya and Panda and Eugenio, who are willing to help me kind of do some of this. And doing all of this in advance means that now I've got all of the major NPCs put together, or at least all of the families, and then I'm going to build out the individual NPCs that people will be interacting with, which is one of the things I love to do. And then I also am a person who very much thinks and plans like the whole thing conceptually, and then I am a GM that is, I guess, nominally can be considered an improv GM, but isn't quite, because when I prep everything, for me, I believe that, I'm just gonna close this for a second. For me, the thing is, I see all of the NPCs, whether they're just regular NPCs or villains or whatever, or the big bad, as individuals with their own, who are living in this world that I have created and have their own goals and desires, the same way that the player characters do. And the player characters, and so once I figure out what those goals and desires are, I can have them off here doing whatever, and then have the player characters' actions influence and as they go. And because I know what the goals for each of those NPCs are, even if even if my players go over here, like way off of where I'm expecting or have planned for the session, I still know what's going on because my NPCs still have their goals that they're working to achieve. And whether the players, are engaging with those goals or not isn't really an issue because the goal is still happening. And then I'm also one of those people that kind of, when I create whole, I think of things, I'm a person who loves music, right? Like, music helps me think. And so I created a playlist to help me that I will listen to, and I do this just with all the games I run. Like when I create characters for long running campaigns, if I play a character in more than a one shot, they will have their own playlist, and I will listen to that play, and it's a combination of both diegetic and non-diegetic music, and I will listen to that playlist before that game day, and it helps me get into character and think about the character and think about their life. But when I'm running a game, I create a playlist because a lot of that music is going to also help inform tone and theme to my players. And so, but then this is also the playlist I will listen to when I'm doing, like, before game GM prep and all of this stuff. And so, like, this is the playlist I created for Arc 1. And because I've separated each session of this game, so we're going to do a session 0 on June 11th, and then first game session will be June 18th. And then it'll be 6 weeks. And it will start in 1945. And then because each game session is going to be a couple year jump, till we get to until the last day of that last of the 6 sessions is going to be 1962. The music that I've chosen spans 1945 to 1962. And that's going to help me get into, like, the thinking space for this game. But that's just me. So this is where we are, and the family has an ascent in 1928. They gain a little bit of land, they gain a good chunk of wealth, though, and I think that is just, I think this goes back to that fey nature of making deals, and rum running, right? Like, they have a vineyard, they own a distillery. I think that they would have personally been horribly offended with both the conception of prohibition and its implications. And it's, so I think they start making deals, and they're rum running, and I think this is where they, and this is the beginning of a business relationship with the are they the Eldridge? The Ware Sound Tiger Sharks. Our Ware Sound Tiger Sharks are the Eldridges, right? Yes, the Eldridge family. Yes, Mandy, there's an entire family of Ware Sound Tiger Sharks. And yes, they're very interesting people. So I think the LaFayettes here are making deals and rum running, and the beginning of a business relationship with the Eldridges for smuggling, for larger scale smuggling. And I think this is where they really start influencing local politicians against prohibition. And I think that they, I think that's going to be one of their things, is they are just personally offended by prohibition, and that is a thing that they're gonna be a thing. Wine is sacred, damn it. Look, you're not wrong. They're also French and probably, you know, had a period of time, probably faked being French Catholic. And so wine is literally sacred. So yes. Okay. And then World War II gaining more glory and a large, massive boost in magic, right? Like they've got a massive boost in land, in reputation, influence, but this big boost in magic. And I think this is just them being, even though, like, I think this is them supporting the, you know, actually joining the army. And I think there's an individual here who's in glory, and I think, correct me if I'm wrong, to history. All right, so okay. Yeah, 'cause yeah, so because there's the USS Savannah, which is specifically a ship. Grumble watching on my phone, and it keeps stopping randomly. I'm so sorry, Faye. All right, so I'm gonna say that. Yeah, I'm gonna say that a member joins the army, becomes an officer Wait, are they do the Rangers exist yet? Army Rangers, come on. Give me the Army Ranger School. Yes, the 75th Ranger Regiment. Yes, yes, yes. All 90% of them train out of Fort Benning. History. Yeah, okay, so the 3rd and 4th Ranger Battalions were activated and were part of, yeah, so becoming an officer in the Rangers, in the 3rd Ranger Battalion. Gaining glory in North Africa, and then oh yeah, we're gonna send them to Pointe Hoc. There you go. Fort Benning, coming in useful. And I'm going to have it be, because Pointe Hoc is such a interesting location, right? Like, and Um, yeah, they seize everything and keep it, get from the Germans, and then keep Pointe du Hoc is a great point for them. All right, so, and I'm also going to say, because of this boost in magic, right? Like this 6, they get a 6 in magic from this. I'm going to say that Pointe du Hoc was a cave that was also was a cave that served as a doorway to the served as a doorway. And because they managed to take it back from the Germans and protect it, and they're at this point where they're like standing halfway in the mortal realm and halfway in Tir na Nog, under the hill, that they gain just a little bit more, they gain a lot more magic, right? Like they're now wholly more magical because they've spent some like time in the doorway. In the blessing of the Winter King for their service, right? And then, so they come back laden with medals because they're a member of the Army Rangers. And then they also are, you know, Pointe du Hoc is not just, you know, it is now going to be this location, which I think is great, because if you've ever seen images of Pointe du Hoc, like, it is, like, you can just see it being, right? Like, this is, this. All right, so this is Pointe du Hoc. This triangle here in France, overlooking, and this beach that's along, this beach here that's along, you can just see in the foreground, that's Omaha Beach. And where this road comes in, that's where the Germans had established bunkers and had put artillery units into the cliffside overlooking the beach so that they could fire both out into the water and across the beach onto landing boats. So the Army Rangers, because they're a special kind of people, and I say that with love, I know some Army Rangers, but y'all jump out of perfectly good airplanes, so you know I'm not wrong. And so the Army Rangers, using rappelling equipment, climbed the 100 and some odd feet up to the top of Pointe du Hoc, captured the gun placements, and then fought off the Germans who were trying to come back in and take over those gun placements. Funnily enough, one of those groups gets all the way to the top and finds out that the guns weren't actually installed. They were just kind of there. But I think that this is, you know, having this member of the family serve and then be at Pointe du Hoc, and you can just see that this looks like just a point where you would be like, yes, this is a point of where, and this is what it looks like from the top, right? Like, all of these bunker holes, this is a doorway. If you did not think that this was a doorway that the Germans had discovered and were controlling, this is a doorway. yeah, it's a very unique combat experience, as they say. But yeah, so I think having gone skydiving for the first time tandem with someone from a paratrooper unit, yes, they all make questionable choices. Right! Like, look, at least Coast Guard rescue swimmers, if they're jumping out of the helicopter, and they don't even jump, they rappel into open water, they're doing it to save somebody else's life. And they're still rappelling, and there's still a line attached, and they're not jumping out of a perfectly good airplane. Look, this is a thing. So, yes. So I think this makes a lot of sense to have this member of the family be, gain glory both amongst the mortals for, you know, valor and service in combat, and amongst the other Fae for taking back control of this doorway that the Germans, because of it's just a cave system too, and now... Oh, well, yeah, Mandy. All of the Ranger units are Spec Ops. That's what they are. So, fun fact, one of our family's really good friends was a colonel in the Rangers, and he carried a phone, and he had the football on two separate locations, on two separate occasions. And if you do not know what the football is, the football are the nuclear launch codes. And it is a certain individual's job to carry that around and keep it in a suitcase just in case, you know, shit goes to hell. But yeah, no, I'm sorry, he was just introduced as, yeah, he was just introduced as a paratrooper, but yeah, he's a paratrooper, and I'm pretty sure all of the paratroopers are, you know, unless he was in the, well, Rangers are a little bit special, and then the other paratroopers are like the 82nd Airborne, also a little special. Airborne units are... we love them and appreciate their service. But I think the loss of oxygen gets to them. We love them. But yes, okay, so now we need to figure out names for these and how they're related, right? So we know that the original individual who gains glory for the family is fighting with Henry of Navarre. And I think this is a case of... okay, so we need some French... come here, fantasy name generator. I need some, French names. Europe. French. I think they have to be... I think we have to go with male French name... male presenting, because again, they're Fae, so it doesn't matter. They choose their gender presentation based on what they need and for what is going to be the most benefit to them. And I think in this case, this individual is going to be presenting as male because it's a lot easier to present as male. All the French names are Jean something. Not all of them. Actually, quite a few are not. Louis, by the way. All the Louis are not a Jean something, right? Like, ooh, or do we go with Breton, right? Like, do we go with a Breton? Or Norman. I think we're gonna have to go with Breton for... they're all Jean-Louis. No, all the Louis will tell you straight up. Gauvin. I think. Because they're helping Henry of Navarre, right? Like, they're supporting Henry of Navarre, so... I think it's either going to be Gaul or... No, it's got to be Breton. I think we're going to go with Breton. And... Paltan? Lots of Jean-François, exactly. Ooh, what about, ooh, okay, all right. We're gonna do what we did last time, and I'm gonna put some names up on a poll. So, Breton names, and I'm gonna give you four options. Three options? I'm gonna give you three options, all right? And you may answer. So we're gonna go with Matteo. We're gonna go with Caradec. Avron. And Avron. I like Avron. Alright. And I'm gonna put the poll up. Only single votes this time. So you should be able to see the poll now to get some Breton names going for this first member of the family who is going to help Henry of Navarre and will be doing pretty good when it comes to military fighting, and then he's going to get massacred in by the Union Army like they do. I know, but you gotta pick one, Mandy. Okay, now we've got a 50-50 tie. Okay. Then I will pick the tiebreaker, and we'll go with Avron for this one, and Avron LaFaeYette. And then we'll make Caradec. Caradec will be our Army Ranger. And Avron will be our person getting all the military glory until they get horribly killed by the Union Army. Okay. I think that's where we're gonna go with that. Yeah, so he's gonna die in... Alright, so Avron. Alright. Avron. Male presenting. And I think they are among in public seen frequently seen as the young male ideal by mortals. I want to give them, and I think they had some training with in combat with the Winter Court. All right, and so then we get, and I think, so now we get in 1665. Now we're at, like, France is a scene. You want to be seen. Jean Racine, and I think this is the point where we're going to have a female presenting individual become the patron for Racine, right? Like, she's going to present older than she is, you know, and be one of those, and so it's 1665. I think she presents as Avron's older sister, and so she can present as this old widow and be seen in French society as a old French widow who, you know, is now supporting the arts. And yeah, I like that idea. So we need female Breton names. Okay, we're gonna do the same thing. Gonna do the same sing. New poll. Avron's sister, and I'm gonna give you 3 options, and I think we're gonna go, one of them I like is Amel. Tristana, I like that. And our last option is what is our last option? Marzina. Ooh, that's interesting. All right. There we go. Vote. Vote, please. Oh, because there are certain times when they... Well, Coldrake, they need to present... They know... They use the gender expectations and gender norms of any society that they are in part of to manipulate. So they need to present in certain ways because they know that they need to present in certain ways to manipulate things. So that's what they do. But welcome in, Coldrake. Look, it's not my fault that you're making pretty things and I'm distracting you with polls. You don't have to answer the poll, Mandy. Although it'd be useful and I appreciate all of your time and effort. But we're gonna go with Amel. I like Amel. Amel. Okay, so Amel presents as a stylish widow, older widow, and like she is that age Like, she is Sophia Loren, older Elizabeth Taylor, right? Indeterminate age, perpetually somewhere between 40 and 60, looks gorgeous no matter what her real age actually is. Because, you know, she's a fae. She can do whatever she wants. And patron of the arts. Publicly seen as Avron's older sister. Yes, that is a question. We should find out. All right. Okay. Okay. Look. Look. In my next life, I will just desire to be have Sophia Loren's family genes, because that woman is a goddess. We know who got, you know, like... It has weird lacing with ribbons on the... Why are there lacings and ribbons on the capelet in the back? Is it supposed to be, like, corseted or something on this cape? I'm confused, and I have questions. And for those of you who don't know, we're talking about the cape that Lady Luck is currently making. Alright, so Avron is... Okay, so... A Corsica cape? No, we don't like any weird Corsicans with capes. We do not like Corsicans with capes here. We know what happens when we give a Corsican a cape. They end up with a god complex and a belief that they will actually conquer the world and invade Russia during the winter. That's what happens when you give a Corsican a cape. It's like what happens, you know, give a mouse a cookie, not as bad as giving a Corsican a cape. You come to this channel for all the history references. You know that. Alright. Okay, so... We've got Avron and Amel. Look, if you have not read the Temeraire series by Naomi Novak, hashtag not sponsored, go read that series of books and appreciate the joy that that series of books inspires. Yeah, the Sardinians are totally cool with capes, though. No problems whatsoever. I mean, look, Sardinians have a lot of other problems, but capes are not that one. So, okay, so Avron... Yes, there's always reading involved. It's the Opera Geek's fault. I have seen the Opera Geek live on stage. I do not think there is anything wrong with the Opera Geek having a cape or inspiring capes. Capes are good. Unless you're a superhero. And then capes are bad. But if you're in opera or theater, capes are very good. I saw... Okay. Hi, this is where we go back to just chatting for a second. So, speaking of capes, my goal is to complete it. Yes. Yes. I am here for all of this. I am here for all of this, Mandy, and, yes. Yeah, Coldrake, clips of her, I will tell you right now that all of the clips that I have seen of Kelly performing in an opera on YouTube or any of the live performances that have been recorded, they do not hold a candle to being in a theater with her live. And I am very happy that I got to say that I can say that I've been to at least 2 of her operas. And I hope to be able to go to more of her operas in the future. It's much more impactful, but it's also much more disturbing when she does the dead eye thing live. If you don't know what I'm talking about, she has this wonderful ability to actually have her eyes roll back in her head as if she was actually dead. Which, when she was playing La Traviata, was actually used, and you're just sitting there staring at her, and like the last 3 minutes of the opera, she's a dead body, and the male lover is run back in just after she dies of consumption. And is lying on the stage. It's very impactful. It's also slightly disconcerting, but very impactful. Yes. Fun notes. Hi everybody. If you don't know, go follow the Opera Geek on YouTube or Twitch or Twitter or all of the platforms, and shower her with love and all of the possible theater opera options and theater. All right. So back to these LaFayettes. We get Avron, who is gaining, he's the military presence, and then Amel, I think it's this balance, right? Like this balance in presentation of gender. And I like this balance in age too, right? Like the family presents either Avron or Amel. Yeah, Coldrake, full disclosure, the LaFayettes is a term that Carlin came up with, but you know that. We're just gonna keep it because it works. And I like this balance, and I think this works for this Faye family, that you've got this dichotomy in Avron, who presents both youthful energy and masculine energy, and Amel, who presents older wisdom energy and feminine energy. And you see the way they position these points of power when necessary, right? Like, their appearance is entirely arbitrary, whatever they want to be, because Faye. Okay. And then 1789. Who are we going to say? No, they're not going full Conehead. Look, I know people like to talk about, I know people like to talk about the Coneheads. I was never a big fan. I preferred watching Alien Nation. If you want to watch an alien TV show with an interesting cranial protuberances, I prefer that show. All right, so who are we going to say? Is it... Oh, no, they are actually from France, Coldrake. They are 100% from France. And then they come to the United States later. Their family gains their power supporting Henry of Navarre, becoming King of France when he marries Catherine de Medici's daughter. After, Catherine de Medici's sons all die. And yes, I refer to her as Catherine de Medici because I think she was much more than just being the Queen Mother of France for 40 years. She ruled France for 40 years and did it as the de Medici, so. Yeah. Exactly. So and the family is tied to the Lafayette, the like actual Lord Lafayette, the Marquis de Lafayette. But that's the Marquis de Lafayette is the mortal side of the family. So who do we say is this person who puts down these local bandits, who talks them around? I think it should be somebody else, not Amel or Avron, because I think Amel is establishing herself at this point as a patron of the arts, as getting involved in supporting local politics. Avron is, you know, supporting, will end up being another fighting some more things, and then we'll find out. I don't know how they're related, but I think we're gonna say that they are. Look, we know that they're not Karadec. Karadec is gonna be later. And I think this is the individual. Okay, so this is Amel. Amel is the one who starts organizing local authorities and politicians and you know, being that political background mover and shaker. And I think I'm gonna change the polls. And we're gonna pick a bunch of names and we're just gonna choose, because they could present as either male or female, and I like that idea. And I'm gonna say put 4 names up. The top 2 are male names according to and then the bottom 2 are female names. And so I will allow additional votes. There you and you're gonna have to spend some channel points to get those additional votes. All right, there you go. New poll up. Yeah, Amel is the spider web weaver. So yeah. That's where we are and where we'll be. Okay, so we're going with Declan. Declan. And I like this idea that she is female presenting and young female presenting. And I like her being like the young ingenue female force in this family, which is why it's so much more impactful when she And I'm gonna say that she is. Why don't we make her Avron's daughter? Yeah, you gotta have those young gallants twisted all around her head. Exactly. And I think that's where her ability to talk this local, like this group of bandits who were coming to attack the vineyard and the distillery, and she talks them into, hi, don't you want a job? You seem to, you know, be robbing people. Let me give you an actual job. Here, we'll hire you as security for the vineyard and the distillery, and then, you know, whatever. And then Amel starts gaining you know, this spider web position, and occasionally like they publicly die and then like whatever, but from mob to security to family personal art. Exactly Coldrake. There's probably a lot of benefits to being the personal army of a bunch of fae, you know, as long as you're not riding with the hunt, you're probably okay. We know what happens to people riding with the hunt. Okay. So 1914, I think this is where fae benefits galore. Exactly. And I think this is where, this is going to be Declan, right? Declan is the one who makes the deal. And with the mortal, but it's who enforces the consequences. And I think they get decapitated. Spoilers, Schmelzer. There are people who maybe haven't seen the ending of Witcher Roads Home. By the way, if you haven't seen the ending of Witcher Roads Home, go watch it. You can find it on my YouTube. It exists. I'm putting a bunch of shorts up right now. And hey, side note, if you've liked anything that I've put up on YouTube, if you could drop a like and or a comment, that'd be real great. Because apparently I'm getting review bombed now on YouTube because people don't like RP. Yeah. Yeah, that's the thing that's been happening, Coldrake. No, Coldrake, they make deals with mortals all the time. That's what they do, right? Like, that's what the Fae do. You make a deal, you make a contract. It's not quite as bad as with the devils, right? Like, or a demon. That deal is always going to have negative consequences. The deal with a Fae is just going to be equally beneficial to both parties. You just don't like what would happen if you break that idea. The devil is in the details, exactly. What next? Sharing food? Exactly, you can share food with them. I'm sure that the dining experience at the vineyard would be absolutely very pleasant. I can quite speak to. By the way, there are vineyards in Georgia. One of my favorite is called Chateau Elan. Hashtag totally not sponsored, but if they wanted to sponsor me, I would do a lot of things for Chateau Elan money. So So I like the idea of Declan as the one that makes the deal, and I think this is the first major sighting of Amel since Avron's murder, right? Like, I think that's what this is. I'm just gonna drop a link in the chat and let y'all understand what I'm talking about. Have fun. No, so Avron is gonna get murdered by the Union, by Sherman, and specifically a hunter. Ooh, wait, we need to know more about this hunter's family, right? Like, and I think this is Amel in response, Amel disappears from public Declan and oh no, he's killed with cold iron, like murdered by a hunter who's, you know, knows about the supernatural and purposely attacks him because he was making too big of a name of himself from the yeah, cold iron is not nice. Declan and Karadek become the public faces of the family. Alright. And so I think this 1914 moment is like the first time in 50 years that that Amel is seen, right? Like she's like, bitch, no, you do not get to fuck around with us. And I think Karadek, okay, so who is Karadek? I think Karadek is Amel's son. If we say that Declan is Avron's daughter, then Karadek is Amel's son. Ooh. Was Avron married? Okay. Okay. We need Avron's wife's name. Well, presenting Avron's spouse's name. And I'm going to use, I think just to make this interesting, that the family that married in are Norman Faye. So we've got Norman and Breton. And that's why Pontahawk becomes such an important thing for Karadek, because it's the point right between, there we go. I got it. I know. I'm good. Alright, so we need Avron's spouse's name. And I think she presents, I think it's one of those, in public, they present as she, but they also present as male frequently to accompany Avron on the battlefield. Ooh, I like that idea. Like, so I want to put some... I'm going to put 2 female names on the top and then 2 male names on the bottom. And these are going to be Norman. And... all right. I'll give it... There you go. A minute. Finally. I did not put Eve on this list. I did not put Eve on this list. Purposely did not. I went with Norman names and not Breton names. I was using Norman names and not Breton names. All right. Ooh, Thurston. I like that one. Thurston. All right. So when Avron dies... Avron... And... Alright, so when Avron dies, what happens to Toustin? What happened to Toustin? I think they... Vengeance? Oh. Oh. Alright, so we need famous commanders in Sherman's army. Okay, so who have we got? All right. We need somebody who's going to obviously become... Hello. We need somebody whose family is gonna, you know, not one of the major career... Hi, I got somebody here. Coldrake, did you not know that this was already an opera? How much drama already exists in these NPC families? So, we're gonna go with Hugh Judson Kilpatrick, who was apparently finally member of the United States Minister to Chile and an unsuccessful candidate for the U.S. House of Representatives. And he was a cavalry officer. Nicknamed Kill Cavalry, or Kill Cavalry, for using tactics in battle that were considered as recklessly disregarding the lives of soldiers under his command. Kilpatrick was both praised for the victories he achieved and despised by Southerners whose homes and towns he devastated. We have ourselves a murdering officer. And if you don't know what that reference is, you need to go watch the Sean Bean Sharp series and listen to Patrick Harper's differentiation between killing officers and murdering officers. This here is a murdering officer. Yeah, Kilpatrick graduated from the United States Military Academy 1861. He was born in 1836. How old? 1861 minus 1836. Oh, he was 25 when he graduated from the military academy. Interesting. A little late, but okay. Kilpatrick was the first United States Army officer to be wounded in the Civil War, struck on the thigh by canister fire while leading a company at the Battle of Big Bethel, on June 10th, 1861. Within 3 days, he was captain in the 5th New York Infantry. Oh, he served under Hooker. There's your problem. He was at Gettysburg. Yeah, this is... Kilpatrick was an early member of the Military Order of the Loyal Legion of the United States. A military society composed of officers who served in the Union Armed Forces and their descendants. He was elected to the first-class companion in the Pennsylvania Commandery and was became an active Republican, which doesn't mean the same thing as it did not mean the same thing. Battlefield promotions, all the worst influences, yeah. In November 1865, Kilpatrick was appointed minister to Chile by President Andrew Johnson. This appointment was announced concurrently with the inclusion of Kilpatrick's name on the list of Republicans arrested for bribery. There you go. He is everything we want. As an American minister, he was involved in an attempt to arbitrate between the combatants of the Chinchilla Islands War after the Valparaiso bombardment. Failed at that. Was recalled in 1870. Became a candidate for the Republican nomination for governor of New Jersey, but lost to Marcus Ward. Look, yo. Y'all lost to Marcus Ward, you have some problems. Due to the Grant administration recalling him, Kilpatrick supported Horace Greeley. Oh! Really? No! By 1876, returned to the Republicans and supported Rutherford B. Hayes. Okay, at least you're supporting Hayes now. In Chile, he married his second wife, who died in 1928, Luisa Fernandez del Valdivieso. A member of a wealthy family of Spanish origin that had emigrated to South America in the 17th century. They had 2 daughters, Julia Mercedes Kilpatrick. And interesting, she does not have a death date. She was born November 6, 1867, Santiago, Chile. But she is not, they don't have her listed as a death date. And Laura Delphine Kilpatrick, who was born in 1874 and died in 1956. In March 1881, in recognition of Kilpatrick's service to the Republicans in New Jersey, as well as a consolation prize for his defeat for a House seat, President James Garfield appointed Kilpatrick again to the position of minister to Chile, where he died shortly after his arrival at the Chilean capital of Santiago. His remains returned to the United States in 1887 and were returned at West Point Cemetery. He wrote 2 plays. Alatuna, historical and military drama in 5 acts, and The Blue and the Gray, or War as Hell, which was published in 1970 posthumously. That's intriguing. I might actually have to go read that play. But yes, we're going to make this wonderfully complex person. Come here. Murdered by Hugh Judson Kilpatrick, who was aware of Avron's supernatural origin, if not his specific identity. Right? Like, I think that's what that's gonna be. The term is colorful career. Yeah, she never died. I don't know where Julia Mercedes Kilpatrick. Let's see if we can find out. Now I just want to know. Okay, family search. She pops up on family search. No, she died. Oh, when Julia Mercedes Louisa Kilpatrick was born in November 1867 in Santiago, Chile, her father was 31. Her mother was 22. She married Brigadier General William Carroll Rafferty. She married William Rafferty? And this isn't on Wikipedia. Like, this connection should be a big thing, that she ends up, you know, marrying Will Rafferty. On the 7th of November 1894 in Manhattan. They had a son and a daughter. She lived in Suffolk County until 1910, and then moved to Baltimore, where she died in 1958 in Baltimore at the age of 90. That's actually really kind of cool. But she outlived her children by at least 2 years. Yeah. Like, this is where our officer was aiming. Like, that's the thing, is, like, I think because I think he... Yeah, Automod, I apparently thought you were saying an a-hole. Automod was just being aggressive. Look, I kind of get annoyed with Wikipedia sometimes and what they don't post about women that are equally important. It's why I always support the Women Classics Initiative, which is when a bunch of us get online and just write Wikipedia entries for famous women classics people and a bunch of others. Thank you for that, Kurt Rich. Welcome in. I have to figure out what we're going to do with channel points for Carousel Court. I have an idea. I think it'll just be bonus dice. I think it'll be bonus dice. Like we did for the regiment. But, alright, so... and I think it's a case of Kilpatrick doesn't know what Avron is specifically, but because of like what Kilpatrick was doing in you know, the whole Dahlgren affair, that it might be, I think he just knows that he's supernatural, doesn't know what it is, and has enough superstition to say, all right, get somebody to make me cold iron, and we're gonna murder this guy because he's impeding our ability. And just generally based on the way that Kilpatrick functioned, like, summing up Judson Kilpatrick in 1864, Sherman said, I know that Kilpatrick is a hell of a damned fool, but I want that sort of man to command my cavalry on this expedition. Look. He is very much a... You almost need a score sheet to keep up with all the intrigues and behind-the-scenes shenanigans. Yes! Yes, I do. Look! Crit is just being kind. And I appreciate their kindness. Alright, so what does okay, so we're saying that Thurston... Oh, I like that. Okay, so Thurston, when Avron is killed, right? Emil disappears from public life because even though they presented as very different individuals, I want to say they're twins. Sort of. And I think Thurston goes on a revenge campaign, and that's how Kilpatrick loses politically in New Jersey. No, it's Avron and Amel. Prevents Kilpatrick from gaining political power after the war. Right? Like, stops him from becoming a representative, stops him from becoming governor of New Jersey, forces him to go, you know, as I have in the Red God, I have faith in practice. Yeah, exactly. And I think that's what Thurston does. Like, we know that this family is kingmakers, and I think this is where, like, they're going full out. Thurston is like, you murdered my spouse, you motherfucker. Anything you want, I'm going to stop you from getting it. We're going to get you sucked off and banished to Chile, for God's sakes. Where, I mean, admittedly, he marries his second wife and has 2 more kids, but, you know, you can't totally control everything as much as they may wish to. So I think that's what Thurston does. And I think, that also accounts for this decline in 1893, right? Up until 1893. Thurston and a couple of has left Georgia and is messing around with the political situation in the tri-state, New York, New Jersey at this point. Basically pulls a Sherman burning march on his career. Yeah, pretty much. He's like, no. Nope, not gonna allow any of this. Alright, so we know who... Now we need... And I like this kind of... Like... The 2 siblings married these other 2 siblings. So we need Thurston's sibling who marries Amel. And I think... we need Amel's spouse's name. And I think this is, we're going to do the same thing. 2 male names, 2 female names. Back to Normandy. Here we go. Here we go. Also trying to avoid certain particular names that I may have used. Ooh, Denon. I like that. In a certain other game because, you know, reasons. Okay, so the top 2 are male and then the bottom 2 are female. I need one more. That I can't reuse one. It's like I don't want to get... I would make myself confused with just the pure number of... Like, look, the number of NPCs that were in Witcher Roads Home was great. But it did mean that I don't want to reuse certain names because... Alright. There you go. Have fun. New poll up. I will wait to stitch this seam until the vote goes up. I'm sorry I'm stopping you for a scene. They're Caldrake. Well, Tristine is up north. We have Declan, who is Avron and Tristine's daughter, and Karadek, who is Amel and blank son, who are becoming the new focus, you know, for the family. Look, there will probably be pictures after the fact. You should go follow, hey, speaking of, go follow Mandy on Twitch and Twitter, and follow her on LadyLuck34 on Twitch and Twitter so that you can follow all of her sewing greatness and support it. Exactly. So Declan and Karadek are going to be the new generation. See, there will be pics. All right, let's see the results. Ooh, Emery won. Substantially, Emery won. All right. Ooh, it's pleather. Ooh, okay. All right, so Amel and spouse frequently presents as male, but also at certain points presented as female because you could get away with that in the French court. Emery is Tostin's sibling. Right? I like this idea. So Amel and Avron were siblings who have a union with Tostin and Emery. Right? So we've got this Norman family of Unsheed marrying a Breton family of Unsheed, and the two merge together, and that's when we get Declan and Karadec. And I like this idea of look, Mandy, you are officially a better person than I am because I just read the word pleather involved in sewing a sewing project, and that will I'm not good enough for that. I am very much not good enough for that. So that you're better than I am. Look, you the words before was added to this list. I have never used. Okay, all right. Or it may go like a dream. All right. So I think this point when Declan makes this deal, and this is when Amel comes back to enforce the consequences, and I think this is the point where Tristan, returns from up north to aid in the revenge. Like, I just think that Tristan is full on, like, I have to find the appropriate... Oh, wait, I think I do. I will find that. And for those of you who don't know, when this game actually gets started, there will be a Google Slides NPC doc that I create for both my players and the viewers, so that will be a tool that people can then call up and see the face claims that I am using for these NPCs and the brief information that all the players know about this particular NPC. Some individual players might know more or less depending on connections to these NPCs, but like all of the general and player knowledge will be on this doc. And then that way both players and audience members can play along and know who we're talking about. Yes, exactly. I think that Tristan, and I think that Karadec's joining of the army, becoming a ranger, going to Point de Hawk, and coming back out of that is a moment of both, is going to be a great point, right? Like, you're not wrong, Coldrake. There are reasons why I had to do it that way, but you're not wrong about them being very attractive individuals. I can tell you right now that the Pinterest board for this game is already up, or is being created, has been created, and we're up to 50 pins on this Pinterest board for just Arc 1. And I can't wait to show them off. So that's where that's going. Okay. Oh yeah, Witcher had... What was the final count on Witcher? Witcher had 180 or 178. Gapia has 238, but you know. There's a reason for that. Have to build out an entire world in Agapia's Fortune. By the way, if you don't know what I'm talking about with either Witcher Road's Home or A Song of Agapia's Fortune, both of those are on the YouTube in nice, neat playlists. If you want to catch them out, see what they're going to be like, you can drop a follow, like, comment, all of those good things to combat the evils of the YouTube algorithm and apparently review bombers that come out of the YouTube algorithm. It's okay, Mandy, you're fine. Alright, so I think this is where we're going to end with Amel and Emery's son. No, I don't. See, Coldrake, I have an objection to the AI art filters because AI painters are all thieves. And hey, side note, a ruling just came down from the United States Supreme Court in a case entitled AMF, which stands for, oh god, what's his fucking name? AWF. Andy Warhol Foundation, not AMF, AWF. Andy Warhol Foundation versus Goldsmith, where the case came down, and it came down in the correct manner in a 7-2 ruling, where, hi, Andy Warhol, and this is where context is really important, and the reality that fair use, side note, this is now going to be a discussion of fair use for a brief second. So fair use is a defense against infringement. To use this defense against infringement, you must first acknowledge that you have been infringing. It is the way the life works. No, that's not yet. Krellin, so far, that ruling that AI works are not copyrightable is purely a ruling, a regulation coming out of the Copyright and Patent Office. The reason this is important is because the Warhol case, in this particular instance, so a short TLDR, 1984, Goldsmith, who is she is a famous photographer who does rock and roll photography, was a really big, did a lot of really famous portraiture and in rock and roll and other things, and sold to magazines frequently. She did a series of portrait photographs of Prince in 1984, one of which she sold to Newsweek, the rest she kept. In 1987, Vogue contracted with Goldsmith, got a licensing agreement to take one of those unreleased photos that she took in 1984 and use that as an image, a basis for an art piece portrait that they were going to commission, and it would only be used in a single issue, the November 1987 issue of Vogue, and it would only be one whole page and one half page of art. And she would get attribution credit. And for this, she was paid like $400 in 1987. Fast forward to 2016. Okay, so we'll go back to 1987. Vogue took this portrait that they picked of Prince that was taken by Lisa Goldsmith, handed it to Andy Warhol, commissioned Andy Warhol to make a screen print of it. He did a series of 16, one of which was given to Vogue. The rest were just kind of kept by him. We don't know why. He didn't write about it in any of his journals. The man was a prolific journaler, and he didn't write about any of this in his journal. And after he dies, the Andy Warhol Foundation sells a number of these to a bunch of these unseen prints to museums for art, for presentation of Andy Warhol art. Fast forward to 2016, Prince dies. Condé Nast, who is the parent company of Vogue, decides that they want to rerun the Purple Prince, which is what it was in 1987. And they contract the Andy Warhol Foundation and are like, hey, we want to rerun this commissioned art piece. Will you permit this? What is the licensing fee we need to do for this? And they're like, well, we could do that, or we have these other ones that you've never seen before. Hi, and we'll give it to you for a licensing fee of $10,600. It runs in the issue of Condé Nast. It's called The Orange Prince. Lisa Goldsmith sees this, is like, wait, what? This is my art. This is my portrait. This is my photograph. And contacts the Andy Warhol Foundation and says, hi, I think we need to have a conversation about this licensing agreement because you didn't give me any attribution in this publication with Condé Nast, and this is my print. And the Warhol Foundation, because they are a very litigious group of individuals, not in the best way sometimes, decide to do an end run around her and what was basically a contract dispute. This would have been a basic contract dispute, but they decided to do an end run around her and went and looked for a declaratory judgment in court to say that they weren't infringing because this photograph was not copyrightable. And if it was copyrightable, then they had fair use. They win at the trial court level, which they shouldn't have. The Second Circuit, which is the Second Circuit of Appeals, comes down and says, no, there are 4 factors in fair use cases. You have to weigh each of those 4 factors individually to come to a together, unified. None of them has more weight than the other. You need to look at all of them. And you can't just say that transformativeness is by, this new, something that is inherently transformed is inherently fair use. It's not. There are other factors that go into it. And then the Warhol Foundation appeals to the Supreme Court because the Second Circuit said the Warhol Foundation was looking for a new use and meaning being a definition of transformativeness, and that would be a definition of fair use. And and the Second Circuit is like, look, if you want a new use and meaning of an artwork to be the definition of transformative, you do not want that, because you do not want judges on a court to become arbiters of art. You do not want you don't want Federal Circuit judges to become art critics. It's not. They appealed this to the Supreme Court, and the ruling came down Wednesday in favor of Goldsmith, where the Supreme Court said on this narrow question of whether transformativeness, in this particular case, if the purpose and character of the work, in this particular work, should be evaluated, and whether all 4 factors could be considered, the answer is yes. And 7 out of the 9 Supreme Court justices agreed. And the 2 justices who didn't were Kagan and Richards. And I'm like, the reason you disagreed is because you believed in Andy Warhol so much that you didn't want to actually consider the law. You just thought that Andy Warhol's greatness and you needed to defend him. Versus all of the other judges who were like, you know what? This particular female rock photographer has just as valid art as Andy Warhol, and her work needs to be protected too. Now, this will get pushed back down to the district court, and they will go back into the appeal of whether or not the ruling about the infringement and whether fair use actually happened in this case, because that's not what I've actually been ruled on. I worked at a print shop across from the Uni of Texas in Austin. Fair use and copyright fees were a huge part of our life at the shop. We had to make tons of calls to make certain we could print professors. Exactly. Like, if it was professors... See, that would be an issue about, usually that would be permitted because that's what we call the first factor of fair use, which is the purpose and character. No, I meant Roberts, not Richards. Sorry, Roberts. Chief Justice Roberts. And don't know why I said Richards. Thank you, Krellin. I was having a moment. I could not... Look, Go read this. Wait, hold on. I printed it out. Hold, please. When I say that Kagan and Roberts were so far up the let me praise, we're pushing all the buttons now. Yeah. All right. This is the opening, by the way. This is a printout of the opinion and the dissent from the United States Supreme Court. So me reading this is a public document. It's fine. It doesn't matter. From Justice Kagan, with whom the Chief Justice joins dissenting. Today, the court declares that Andy Warhol's eye-popping silkscreen of Prince, a work based on but dramatically altering an existing photograph, is, in copyright lingo, not transformative. Still more, the court decides that even if Warhol's portrait were transformative, even if its expression and meaning were worlds away from the photo, that fact would not matter. Hi, Kagan. We can see how much you're having a hard-on for Andy Warhol. For in the majority's view, copyright law's first fair use factor, addressing the purpose and character of the use made of a work, is uninterested in the distinctiveness and newness of Warhol's portrait. Yes! This is the point. It is a statutory issue. It is section... I'm sorry, 17 U.S.C. section 107 is literally a statute that defines the 4 factors of fair use, where it says the purpose and character in the use of the work. Hi, how is this infringing work going to be used? Is it used for educational purposes? Is it used for parody? Is it used for the exact same purpose, which in this case was to sell a portrait of Prince to go along with an article written in a magazine? Yeah. That's what the statute says. Literally, what it says. What matters under that factor, the majority says, is instead a marketing decision. In the majority's view, Warhol's licensing of the silkscreen to a magazine precludes fair use. Uh-huh. Yeah. It's for financial gain. And I would also like to point out that it's not really Warhol's financial licensing, it's the foundation. So, yeah. Hi, everyone. You came for me to be talking about Carousel Court, and now you're listening to me talk about fair use and why I think that Kagan is... I'm allowed to have opinions about Chief Justices. I'm just not allowed... Justices of the Supreme Court. I can't be mean about them. But I can have opinions that say I do not think that was a good opinion. Oh, Coldrake, I already wrote a term paper, literally, about it. But the reason that this is important is, going back to your AI comment, is that the cases that are coming up right now, particularly the Getty case, where the argument is, by the AI art platforms arguing is, well, it's fair use to take all of these because it's a new use and meaning. Well, the United States Supreme Court just shot that that down, so the Getty's position gets a lot better. And considering the fact that all of these platforms that are pushing AI-generated art or generated text, you can't gain copyright or patent protection on any of them, so there's no financial gain to be made. But, where were we? Oh. That's why, all of these are going to continue to be using, images that I find on Pinterest, and that as much as I can, I give attribution to the original photographer and the original artist. And I use them exactly. The 300 Rolodex beautiful people pictures and not AI created. Exactly. I try to give attribution as much as possible, and that will be a thing ongoing. But it's now 10:30, and we finished the LaFayettes. Yay! Oh, y'all, I can't even tonight. So I think this is a good point for me to take a break, get some water, because I realized I am out of both wine and Coke, and therefore I need another beverage with which to, No, it ended with World War II. With, Karadec. Right? So, World War I is when Toussaint is going to come back from up north, because Declan makes a deal. Oh, we need to figure out who this mortal is. Who is the mortal? You're right, Coldra, thank you. Who is the mortal that makes a deal and then reneges on the deal? Who is the mortal that reneges on the deal? Alright, we need another famous Savannah, Georgia families. We need to go back. Let's go to historic homes. That'll help us. The deal is World War I. So the deal happens in World War I in 1918. And the deal, Declan makes a deal to help prevent, I'm going to say, like, the scion of this family from being drafted into World War I. And reneges on the deal. And so the consequences come due. And because of that, about 24 million men registered for the draft in World War I. As many as 3.5 million failed to do so, thereby successfully evading induction. Most of these were poor, working-class agricultural and industrial laborers. Yeah. Uh-huh. Ooh, Hayward. I like Hayward. We're going to go with the Hayward family. Okay, so we're going to go from here. We're going to find out more about him. Okay. Okay, so look, okay, that's apparently all All right, so he was born in 1844, died in 18. Okay, so where do we go from there? Look, he had no sons. Well, apparently he had 5 daughters and none of the sons. Somebody was willing to rig the system paperwork for the family and then decided to do them. No, we're gonna do it the other way, as in like they did. Declan made the deal, and again, they're now these big movers and shakers in the political scene, and also, you know, we're greasing the wheels to prevent the family from being, or this individual. It's not going to be. You know, not going to be. They were like, so Declan is the one who prevented people from being, this person from being drafted, or and I think they're gonna be, it's gonna be a case where they were doing something for this particular, you know, power family. Oh, I know who I want it to be, though. It has to be his father's grandfather. Okay, so okay, I'm gonna say it's the, where is he born? He's born in 1930, which means it's gonna be his uncle. So it's his uncle. All right, here's what it is gonna be. It's gonna be James Arthur Williams' uncle, and it's gonna be James. So I need Blanche Brooks Williams. Okay, here's what it is. It's going to be... Okay, so... Okay, I need to know more about her, though. Come on. You have to know more about her. Okay, so I want to make her Blanche Brooks Williams. So it's going to have to be, we're just going to give her a brother. We don't know. We just need him to have a real good Southern name. There's a whole bunch of reason for this because I want to. Okay, so it's gonna have to be like Southern men's names. Colton. I can't be Colton. Chase is gonna be Chase. Maybe Chase. Beauregard. I mean, Beauregard. Because look, her name is Blanche, and his name and Beauregard would be too much. So, old Southern boy names. Here we go. And Thatcher Brooks? Nah. Woodrow Brooks. Miles Brooks. Ooh, I like Miles Brooks, right? Miles Brooks sounds like... Turns out a huge slug of elites at Yale decided to get out of there and make a difference, including pushing for an American Air Force. Yep. Yeah, exactly. So we're gonna go with Miles Brooks and makes a deal with Miles Brooks, and there's a reason for that. Brother, or excuse me, let's just go with uncle to Jim. Here's why it's important. James Arthur Williams. Jim Williams. And if you don't know who Jim Williams is, hi, I have a movie for you to go watch and a scandal for you to go research, a book you go read. It's called Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil. And his preppy Yale boys became pilots. They trained at Yale. Among other things, it's also why the Army Air Corps was stationed out of Yale for a very long time, and why my grandfather was stationed out of Yale for a very long time during World War II. Look, Blanche and Beauregard Brooks would have to be if they were twins, but he has to be older than her, and therefore Miles Brooks sounds better. I do not disagree with you naming things, Krellin. We're still pushing for Eve. That's all fair. You're not wrong. Ooh! Hey, Mandy, can I show these off? Mandy, tell me if I can show these off. Okay. Okay, y'all. So this is, I guess, the back that so Mandy is, of course, working on this cape while we're sitting here chatting and talking about game prep, and she sent me this picture. And so this is I'm assuming the back, correct me if I'm wrong, but this looks like the back that you were talking about was going to be gathered. And then this, I'm thinking, is the front, because it's got the opening. Exactly. Apparently the ribbons to lace it like a corset will go in the... I mean, that makes sense, actually. Like, I know how to do... I've done corseting work, but... Because you're going to go across this panel here, and then this is, like, the modesty panel, and you'll pull it through. This actually looks really good. Yay, Mandy. Yay, LaFaeYette. Luck. So yeah, that looks really good. I'm very impressed. You are fabulous. Yes, so Miles Brooks. Okay, so when was she? Look, Blanche Brooks was born in 1907. And so if he was 7 years old, if he was like, yeah. If he was 7 years older, he'd been 18 in 1918. That works. Make him as the much older brother. That's what I'm going with. Coldrake does indeed learn to delve in the best, love to delve in the best possible way. Anyways, so we're gonna say that Miles Brooks is the uncle of Jim Williams, and I think, and is it, does I think, here's a question. Is Miles the one who reneges on the deal, or is it his parents? Like, is Miles the one doing the deal making himself? Or is it like his mama who made the deal? Okay, I'm gonna put up a poll. Who made the deal? Miles? His mama? Blanche? No, we're talking about not who made the deal with Declan. Declan made the deal. She was perfectly fine. It was a perfectly acceptable deal. By this point, she's old enough that it wouldn't matter. I mean, she's a couple 100 years old. But is it which of the mortals made the deal? Yeah, I know. She's still technically a baby, but age being relative when it comes to immortal beings. Functionally immortal beings. Oh no! If you don't know who Blanche Brooks Williams is, ooh, that looks really good, Mandy. Option 4, it was Beauregard. No, here's the thing. If it becomes... At what age are you not a baby is the question. That is the very... Why did that get... Look, okay. Automod is on, like... Okay, so it's Blanche, which kind of makes sense when you realize who she is. She is the mother of Jim Williams. And... like... Jim Williams is a character, everybody. If you don't know who Jim Williams is, go watch Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil, which was another point. So if you don't know, there was a tweet that went around that said, you know, post, here, I'll pull it up. That said, here, we'll put it here. List four references that inspire your upcoming TTRPG campaign. And I said, all right, this is Carousel Court, so let me give you before. We have number 1, the original Dark Shadows, and our dear Bandabris Collins. God, Love that movie, series. Not the movie, the series. One of my favorite movies of all time, if you want a good cry and also a snark fest. This is Steel Magnolias. Dolly Parton and Olympia Dukakis are the best bitchy best friends ever, and I love them. You can go watch the movie. Carousel of Progress. Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil. This is one of the most scenes in that movie. And then I said, and for bonus points, the other inspiration was Giant. And if you don't know about this film, go watch it. Go watch the beautiful, multi-decade love triangle, romance, oil power move that is Elizabeth Taylor, Rock Hudson, and James Dean. Giant is legendary. Krellin says I watched Steel Magnolias in my Latin class because Latin teacher was also an English teacher and didn't feel like rolling the TV out for the Latin class. I mean, that's fair. You should get to watch Steel Magnolias and enjoy it because it is based on a play, and I can understand why your English teacher gave you that. Giant is one of those great big sweeping epics that I really don't think can be made anymore. Like, I don't think the studios would support it in the same way, which is a sadness because it's great, but it spans, Giant is written by the same author, and that came out in 1956, and it is the same director for, what's the connection between, is it the same? It's either the same author or it's like a massive western. Steel Magnolias is really the basis for Barbershop. I agree with that. To Sir with look, at least your Latin teacher was giving you good film education. To Sir with Love and Ben-Hur. There we go. That's a great combination right there. But yeah, Steel Magnolia, Giant, Dark Shadows, Steel Magnolias, Midnight in the Garden of Eden, and Carousel of Progress. I'm just gonna say that Giant is a great movie. And I still don't know if she picked the right one. Like, look, that's a question I have asked for decades. Did Elizabeth Taylor pick the right one between Rock Hudson and James Dean? And it's hard to know. There are so many questions. I do not know. Hi, by the way, spoiler alert, there's a romantic tension between James Dean, or romance triangle between James Dean, Rock Hudson, and Elizabeth Taylor, and she marries Rock Hudson. Yeah, and Giant, he is James Dean is nominated for the Academy Award for Giant, and he dies before the movie is released. Exactly. There are some things you don't, oh, it's so good. Sorry. like, if, and there's a reason why it's an inspiration for this game, because I'm looking at the generational and the decades effect on things and how family and power is going to change based on the things that happen. Also, I just want to point out that Rock Hudson's character name in this film is Brick. That's his nickname. Everybody call him that. But, yes, Rock Hudson. It's called Brick. It's always made me hilariously laugh. Look. There are some people that apparently can't handle ambiguity or question, and you would be surprised at the number of people and students that I taught. Yes, he was indeed. All right. Okay, so we're gonna say that Miles Brooks, uncle of Jim Williams, and that actually makes sense why we're gonna say that Blanche is the one. Blanche Brooks. Nope. Blanche Brooks, the younger. Is the one who made the deal. Is she the one who breaks it? She's the one who breaks the deal, but I don't think she's the one who made it. I think Miles made it in good faith. No, I think she makes it. She makes it because she's born in 1907, so she would have been 10, 11, just young, like a young girl kind of thing. And I think it's, oh, I love this. All right. So made a deal with Blanche Brooks Williams. Blanche Brooks, mother to Jim Williams, to prevent her older brother Miles from being drafted, okay? And then, because she would have been, let's say, Blanche made the deal. She was 11 at the time, and the deal came due when she was going to be 18, right? Right? The deal is going to be, like, the deal is going to come due when she's 18, and it's going to be something like, you know, tied to her debutante, you know. Tied to her debut, but she breaks the deal. And I think that's a case of, like, 11-year-old little girl firmly believes in the magic of this situation. 18-year-old new debutante is not going to let this fantasy that she had at 11 actually have an effect on her, and that's what causes the break. And that's why she's going to be utterly and totally messed up, and that's why her son is going to get accused of murder in 2 separate trials. Spoiler alert. A whole bunch of other things that, unfortunately, she is going to suffer through because she breaks a deal with the... Exactly, that was a little girl making a wish at 11, and versus the 7 year, you know, in 7 years it comes due, and she is going to break it. And because she was an 11-year-old, there was probably like, the way she breaks it isn't enough for it to be like magically a negative, right? Like she isn't going to be like an oath breaker or something where magic itself is going to punish her. And that's why Kirsten and Amel are going to come out and create this social situation against her. Because I think she manipulates the deal in such a way that it breaks it without getting out of the loophole, right? Because there's always a loophole in a Fae deal. There may not be a loophole in a demon's deal or a devil's deal, but the Fae are always going to give you, you know, if you can have that negotiation, are going to do a good enough deal for you on that one. And we'll find out what she did. And then James Williams will be born in 1930 and life will get fucked for her. So that's what we're going to do. That's what we're going to say. Alright, and then Karadek is going to join the army. He's going to be an army ranger. He's going to go deal with Point to Hawk. And I think gains the blessing of the Winter King. Oh. 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 Hi, sorry. Sorry, can't show you that. That's a spoiler. I mean, I think it was going to be something, along the lines of, I think it might have been something like, I don't think they were going to take her all the way to the court, right? Like, I don't think she was, because if you were going to take her away, you would have taken her away as a child, right? That would be a changeling. And I don't think the Fae, the Unsheathed, would make that deal for a 7-year delay. I think with a 7-year delay, I think it would have been, she had to take, it would either be her firstborn would be offered up, right? Like a Rumpelstiltskin effect, or she would have to marry one of their choosing. And I think the marriage would be the way to go. Oh no, they would probably keep her, like, if you were going to be carried, see, here's the thing, if she was going to be carried away as a child, she would have been carried away as a child, and then you would have had fun with her. If you were an adult who falls into the court, then it would have been a very, very different situation. Am I right? Mm-hmm. I'm right. And I don't think I think based just purely on the story and the way this is, they wouldn't wait, right? Like, if they were going to take her at 11, they would have just taken her. But I don't think that's the deal that this family is making. I think this family is making the deal that the brother would be spared. He isn't going to die. He isn't going to get taken away to France. And I think instead they were going to arrange that the plan was to arrange a marriage. And I think the plan to arrange the marriage wasn't with, like, a Fae family, but someone else of power in Savannah. And that's why her picking the husband that she did was a way out of the deal that wasn't quite breaking it, because it was like a negotiation kind of thing. And I think that's where this will come in. All right. So I think that's everything for the LaFayettes. I think that's everything for the LaFayettes. That's where we're gonna end for tonight, anyways. 'Cause it's 11 o'clock. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Thank you for hanging out. Thank you all. If you are new here, hi, welcome. I'm going to enjoy doing more of these. Oh, look, all of these NPC families are ripe with spider webs. I will be back tomorrow, 8 p.m. Eastern, for some more GM prep. We're going to start weaving some of these families together. And I will not be back next week because it's a holiday weekend and I have to go to my cousin's wedding and a couple other things that I'm doing, like, you know, having some fun with some friends. Some friends are going to come over. It'll be great. But we will be on the lookout because Carousel Court is coming very, very soon. Very soon. And I can't wait to show you all of this, what it'll be, and how much joy this is bringing me, and I hope it will bring you a lot of joy. But where you can find me next, again, tomorrow, Sunday, and then Montreal by Night over on Wandering DM comes back on May 29th, and hashtag not the Ravnos' fault. I'm glad you enjoyed it while you crafted. I'm glad for everybody who lurked, who commented, who helped with the shenaniganry, who voted for more fun times. Enjoyed it. Again, like, I'll be over, again, here, back to tomorrow. We'll be, on word in my head. It's coming over on Wandering DM for Montreal by Night on May 29th. 8:30 p.m. over there. Again, hashtag not the Ravnos' fault. Yet. Nothing so far has been the Ravnos' fault. And we should, but check my Twitter because that's post where I'm going to be in the fun. I'm at Deirdre on Twitter, or Praxgoethesme4. You see me around here on Twitch, or Prax the Bird over on Hive. You can follow me over there. I'm trying to post and cross-post and make sure as many people can see these stories as possible. Also, if you want to share me some love, there's a YouTube. I've been posting a bunch of shorts. Go like and comment, maybe, to combat both the evils of the YouTube algorithm and the, review bombing that apparently a bunch of these are getting. I don't know why. But it also has all of the playlists from all of the previous TTRPGs that I've done, including the recently completed, Witcher Roads Home, the first 2 seasons of A Song of Agapia's Fortune, Krellin, it is not the Ravnos' fault. You can go ask all of the other players involved. It is, in fact, not the Ravnos' fault. It is the Bruja / Simichi's fault, and the Ravnos is there to just clean up the mess. But you can find me, just follow my Twitter, because that's where I'm going to be, and the fun, wonderful, fabulous folks I get to hang out with and play and tell stories with, like a bunch of the people that are commenting in chat or talking about other things. But we should send some love out into the universe, and by that I mean we should raid somebody. Who is up? Ooh, High Shelf Collective is up. We should go give them some love. They are some great people, telling some great stories. And, until next time, everybody. Bye.